And something that I had heard in a meeting that maybe prompted a little bit of this discussion is there was this lady who was sort of sharing her story, and I think she had a year of recovery, and she was just saying that this last time before she got sober, her brother turned to her and said, "How come every 3 years you just completely burned your life to the ground?" And it was like, huh, yeah, I can recognize that, right? Like, and the thing is that oftentimes it is those people around us who can see those patterns more so than we can. And I can recognize that sort of, oh yeah, something really dramatic is gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna lose it all, and then I'm gonna pull my head out of my ass. I'm gonna strive to get better, and then eventually I'm gonna get complacent, and I'm gonna burn it all to the ground again and just start all over.
Right.
And continue that pattern and that process. And it's like, well, today I don't have to do that, luckily, but I can recognize and I can identify with that person saying that thing to her,
Yeah.
and really see, man, like, there was so much happening in my life that the people around me were very, very aware of long before I was identifying it as a negative pattern or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, because they knew, they knew it was coming.
Right.
And you said something that made me think about the fact that we find safety in those patterns for whatever reason, regardless of how damaging they are. Because when you were sharing, I remember my first attempt at sobriety was obviously a failure. It didn't work out. Like, I relapsed, my first attempt at sobriety, and coming back to tell on myself about my relapse. I had gotten out of treatment when I was 24, and I already had a pattern and a habit of trying to convince myself that I'm not going to use again after I would use. A lot of us get into that loop.
Sure.
of I don't know what to call it. It's that loop of not again tonight, like I was talking about before. And so I went to treatment, and when I got out, I relapsed, and it was really difficult for me to go and tell the people in my group that I had relapsed, right? But it went so well, right?
It wasn't as painful as you thought it was going to be.
It was. Yeah, okay. It was, but it didn't kill me, right? And I've seen this several times with other people. Will go, it went so well that it made it, the next time I relapsed, made it a little bit easier to go back and tell them again.
Right.
And then the next time I relapsed, made it a little bit easier to accept that I relapsed. And that put me in a place where I wasn't able to get any time. I stopped trying to go back and admit my failures, right? It just made it easier for that, because I had a pattern of failure and growth. I wasn't really growing, but the fear of talking about it became unnecessary. Like, I didn't need it anymore, And so as I look at the survival patterns that I have, mine too came from trauma. Right. Mine too came from a place of not wanting to be harmed and wanting to be safe. And so I learned a pattern of lying very young, and that continued all the way through my entire life, to where now, there's times that I still will consider lying when the truth would serve me better. My first instinct is to, even though I don't need to, I'm so conditioned. I've conditioned myself so much to protect me from the great unknown. Right. That it's just one of my first instincts is to protect myself. And the patterns that I built through my addiction and recovery are those patterns that are subconsciously designed to keep me alive. These things are going to keep me alive. And I'm tricked myself into the idea that emotions will kill me, that emotional responses to what other people think will kill me. And so
Interesting.
I've had patterns based around that, negative patterns where I'm not going to get close to you because if I do, then I'm going to have to be honest. And if I'm honest, then you'll find out who I am. And if you find out who I am, you're going to reject me. And if you reject me, then I will die.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so everything is really a big facade. And I keep repeating that and repeating that and repeating that and repeating that until the pain of living in that cycle gets so much that I'm willing to do whatever it takes, whatever is suggested to stop that. Even though I don't know what the outcome of that is going to be,